Greetings and welcome to the Jamaica Diaspora Show. We are in location at Hartford Public Access TV studio. My special guest today is Mr. Leslie Perry. Now, I'm gonna get into Mr. Perry's background. Mr. Perry is the former president of the West Indian Social Club, but Mr. Perry is also a stalwart in our community, and we're going to get into all his civic duties and civic responsibilities as a servant leader, as he has served this community for well over 30 years or more. But before we get into the current actions and the current activity, I want to talk to first. I want to invite you, Mr. Perry, to the show. It's pleased to have you, and I wanted to give the audience some of your background, some of your history. You know, where you were born, where you went to school, and so can you tell us where you were born?
I certainly can, Mark.
Okay.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate all the efforts you have made to enlighten our community by bringing people forward and talk about the diaspora, whatever countries we're from, large Caribbean areas. I am certainly one from Jamaica, but I
Now,
consider
where in Jamaica?
I consider myself a Caribbean man.
Okay,
But actually, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Kingston.
However, when people ask me where I'm from, I said Kingston, St. Mary, and St. Anne. And people always marvel and said, well, you can't be from three places. And I said, you're incorrect. Because I was born in Kingston, but my mother hailed from St. Mary,
Okay.
and my father from St. Anne, which means that even though I was born in Kingston, much of my growing up years were in St. Mary and later in St. Anne, where my father came from. So
So St. Mary, St. Mary is a parish.
it's a parish, yes.
What town?
I was born in a little town called, no, I was born in Kingston.
Right.
However, my parents, my mother came from Content Retreat, a little town
Oh, okay.
in Jamaica, and my father was from St. Anne, but a little district called Brownstown.
Okay.
Many people have heard of Brownstown.
I've heard of Brownstown.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So when did you come to the U.S.?
I came to the
How
US.
old were you, in fact?
I
when you
came
first
to the U.S. as a youth.
Uh-huh.
I was actually 12 going 13 when I came to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I came to the U.S., it was at the time Jamaica was getting its independence.
Oh, so that was in the
So,
60s.
yes, in the 60s.
Mhm.
So I came here, and actually after I arrived here is when Jamaica attained its independence in 1962.
Okay.
Prior to that, Jamaica was celebrating what we call Emancipation Day. So the big holiday in Jamaica was Emancipation Day, August 1. Other Caribbean nations also celebrated Emancipation Day. Once independence came about, the nation started to lean towards their particular independence. Like Jamaica was the sixth. They did celebrate, that was in 1962, long time ago. So what wound up happening is they would still celebrate Emancipation Day, but independence took over. And so the prominence came to Independence Day celebration.
Okay.
So even today, there are those who recognize Emancipation Day and celebrate emancipation, but the majority of the folks, not only Jamaica, other islands who attained their independence. In fact, Trinidad and Tobago got their independence in August as well as Jamaica. Jamaica got it August 6th, and Trinidad, of course, got theirs August 35th.
Okay.
Same year, 62. Subsequently, others got their independence.
Right. Well, I want to focus on when you got here and what you did when you got here. First of all, you got here in 60.
Yes. So in the 60s
all right.
when I got here,
Where did you arrive? Did you arrive in Hartford?
No.
Where did you arrive?
I'll give you a little of that history. So I arrived in a little town called Mamaroneck, New York, outside of
At
Larchmont.
14 years old.
Yeah,
Okay.
13 years old.
13 years
Yes. when I arrived, it was a strange environment. A lot of adjustment was needed. And I'm quite sure those of you who came subsequent to mine had a different transition than those who are today, because more immigrants have come to America. But as coming to America was quite an experience. Quite an experience.
And you were 13, 14.
I was
That's what
13.
I want to know. 13.
Yeah. So when I
Okay.
got
And
here,
what grade is that?
when I came here, I was in high school. I
At
went to high
13?
school. Yeah.
So at 13, you were in the ninth grade?
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
Now, here's something, but I want to get through this because typically people that come to the U.S. from Jamaica, you know, the education system is a little bit more advanced, and they end up, sometimes they will misplace a person when in fact the person is advanced and should be at higher grades. What grade did you come into?
When I came here and I started school,
Yeah.
I entered the ninth grade.
Right. Okay. That's okay.
And
That's
so
what
that
you-
was
at
somewhat
13.
adequate. Yeah.
Okay. And typically that is an advance.
And of course,
What school did you attend?
I
Oh,
went-
wait a minute. This was a school in was in
I
New
was
York.
in Mamaroneck, New York.
Okay.
I would say very few people looking like me were there
Oh, okay.
at the time.
All right. So
Um,
when did you come to Hartford?
Okay, I attended Mamaroneck High School, graduated.
Oh, okay, you
And
graduated high school.
I moved on and went to a community college, Westchester Community College. I was from my early years, I was very involved in community. That was in me. So even at an early age,
Were you involved in a community in New York?
oh yes,
Oh, okay.
there was a Trinidadian man, remember his name to this date,
Mm.
Mr. Carrington. He was involved, actively engaged, because you remember the 60s, a lot was happening with civil rights.
But you said in New York, you know, there was not many people of color. But
In the town, there were not many,
mhm.
but Mr. Carrington lived in Mamaroneck, and he engaged in civil rights.
Oh,
He was a
okay.
Trinidadian man.
Mhm.
And when I met him, he involved me in at that particular time in history, Mark, the NACP was 75% white folks.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
The Jewish community
I
and
remember
the
Jews.
liberal,
Uh-huh.
I would say, community were heavily engaged.
Mm.
In fact, I made Kunstler. There was a famous civil rights lawyer, Kunstler, was very active in fighting for civil rights. William Kunstler, his name was. And I have the pleasure of meeting him. And he was an inspiration also. And so I became involved with the NACP youth group
Okay.
at my early age here. Mr. Carrington, Trinidadian, he led
So
it.
how old were you there?
14, 15?
Wow.
Yeah.
You,
Because at
that's-
this school,
yeah.
there was a need for connecting to people looking like me.
So, but wait a minute. See, I'm trying to get see, I went to high school here in Hartford, Connecticut, Buckley. In fact, my older brothers, when they entered the school, I think they were like one of 10 black students, and this was in 1967, around there, in those years. So the percentage of the high school was, I want to say 95% Caucasian, and
Depending
that
on whether you went to
5%.
Weaver or you went to Buckley.
No, this is Buckley.
Okay,
Right?
so-
So the percentage of students there was 95% Caucasian, less than 5% Black or
Caucasian.
Hispanic. So what was the composition of the high school that you went to?
Well, in
That's what I
Mamaroneck-
want to know.
In Mamaroneck, where I went to school,
What was the composition?
if there was 1%, it was a lot.
1%?
Yeah,
Black?
it was a very minimal number of people,
Was it a small
black
town?
people or
Is that a
Caribbean.
small
Yeah,
town?
it's a small town in Mamaroneck, in New York. It's a,
Okay. But I think, you know, my experience is, you know, that having this is what developed my cross-cultural skills,
Yes.
you know, because you go out into society you know those in your community because I was born actually in the north end, and then I moved to the south end. And I started to meet other cultures,
Right.
and I just developed cross-cultural skills. So I saw it as a huge advantage, but only after the fact. Okay, because as through high school, I said, I wonder what this would be like to go to a college, with all black people. and,
Yes.
and so I went to Wilberforce, and I like the mix. I like the experience of meeting and interacting with people of different cultures, even though I appreciate my own.
Well, I can certainly tell you this. That actually led to my moving to Hartford, Connecticut, because at that time, way back when, in the 60s, there weren't many Caribbean people in New York City, but in Mamaroneck, New York, a minimum of Caribbean folks, and even a small number of black people in general. So the population was low. And so I went to Mamaroneck High School.
But that's really interesting that you would get involved with the NAACP at that very, very young age. What after you graduated from high school, you attended community college? You said?
I attended Westchester Community College.
Did you finish there, or how many
Well, I
years?
graduated and I went forward. This was in the days of, this was in the days when the Vietnamese War was raging.
Okay.
And so,
You definitely
folks-
want to be going to school,
folks,
and not be going to war.
I was as I said, I was involved with the NAACP.
Uh-huh.
And those activists urged me to continue my education. I went to school in Nebraska, briefly.
Nebraska?
Yeah, briefly,
Okay.
Scottsboro,
Mhm.
briefly. And then I
What was that
transferred.
like? A lot of cornfields out there.
Oh, yeah, cornfields.
But I guess that's kind of like Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. Scottsboro, Nebraska.
Midwest.
So I didn't stay there more than one semester, and I transferred to the University of Hartford because I had friends who I grew up with in Jamaica had moved to Connecticut. And they're telling me this town is busting, a lot of Jamaicans, et cetera, et cetera. And so, of course, there's always a yearning to be with people looking like you and talk your language and eat your food, et cetera. So I gravitated. I came to Hartford.
So that's how you got to Hartford.
Yes, in the
There were a
60s.
group of people here in Connecticut
Oh, yeah.
reached out to you and said, "Hey, come."
So I went and came to Connecticut. And
What year was that?
that was in the 60s. I graduated from 67 or so. I came here. And I went to
Okay.
the University of Hartford because I
Okay.
graduated in 69. And right away, well, while I was attending the University of Hartford, I would attend this little club on Barber Street called the West Indian Social Club of Hartford.
Okay.
In my young age, I go there, good music and party. I enjoy myself because I see a lot
But
of
let's not get into that yet.
It was great.
Let's back up because I don't want to get in. I want to know about your time at University of Hartford.
Well, at the University of Hartford,
You were studying, you were education. What was your major?
I was majoring in business administration.
Business.
Yes.
Okay.
So at the University of
I
Hartford,
want to know about your experiences at the University of Hartford.
oh, well, now we
I
have,
mean, because now you laid the foundation of where you began your activism began, in the NAACP at the age of 14. Now-
13,
13.
14.
And
yeah.
then you eventually, moved, you had that experience, you attended your schools, you got your education, you came to
University of
to
Hartford.
University of Hartford. When did your community activity pick up?
Oh gosh, the moment
At the University of
the
Hartford.
moment I got to University of Hartford, what was happening again? The 60s was a period of uprising, of activism, and so on the campus, nonetheless, we had a Negro History Club at the University of Hartford.
Okay.
I started getting involved. Within 6 months, it became the African American Club
Okay.
Another-
How that
listen,
name get
listen
changed?
for a moment.
Okay.
Then it became the Black History Club because a man by the name of James Brown was singing, "Say it loud, I'm black, I'm proud."
Right.
So, and I'm integrating now a couple of Caribbean people, but mostly African American, which I worked with in this. I was very actively engaged in that organization. In fact, I roomed in that time, the university was not as large. So many of the people lived off campus. And I'm an older person at that time because I'd already had 2 years of college experience. So the younger one would stay on campus. The campus has expanded tremendously since that time. But from that Black History Club, we became actively engaged and fought to get scholarship for students from Hartford. And I lived off campus with guys who were members of the Black Panther, and I have some good experience.
Who were your mentors? Who mentored you? I mean, because you're at the university. You mentioned someone that was there.
Okay, there was a professor at the University of Hartford. I gotta say his name aloud, call out his name. Dr. Edward Weinswig. He advocated for people of color strongly. And he moved people of color to get in the field of education and sent them out in the community in Hartford to become educators.
So was your degree was in business, but you went into education?
Yes, through Dr. Weinswig's experience and what was happening in Hartford. The school system were having problems. Students were walking out of the class. It was a revolution going on in the 60s. And so, because I was so actively engaged with the Black History Club, African American Club, Negro, it's the same club, but the name just changed as time went on. And so, because of my involvement in it, they reached out and say they needed teachers to teach in the Black community because all those schools in Hartford and places like that didn't have many educators who were looking like me and you. And so they had a program called High Cut through Dr. Weinswig that moved some of us into a summer program to become educated, to get preparation to take over classrooms. And that's how I became a teacher.
Okay. But your degrees?
Business administration.
Oh, okay.
But then I had to take courses. But the summer prepared us because it was a lot was happening in Hartford then. The revolution was televised.
Here's something interesting. Okay, your interest was in business, but you ended up going into education.
Right.
What aspects of business were you interested in at the time before you made that decision, not to pursue a corporate business career and go into education? What was the motivating thing that said, "Hey, I want to go in the direction of education"?
As from my entry, as I said, deeply innately, this man Carrington influenced me, and I leaned towards community activism. Sitting at a desk, being in an office, would not do that. So as the revolution was brewing and the tension in Hartford and the need for educators to help my people, that came first. So I gravitated and took a job as an educator, right? And that's it. I became an educator in Hartford. But again, while I became an educator in Hartford, I was very involved. I became vice president of the Hartford. I was always a community active man. I became a vice president. Not only that, now after I started living in Hartford and become a teacher, I met a man by the name of Cedric Newman.
Okay.
Through his daughter.
Let's not get there yet. The reason why I'm holding off, because I want to get into that, but I want to know also when you got married. I want to know about your wife and how'd you meet her? And, when did that all begin? You were in college.
Well, now, my present wife is not the wife I had then.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I was living in New York. I was attracted to a young lady there,
Mhm.
and we got married. And so when I came here, when I came back and became an educator, I had a wife,
Okay.
right? And she became a part of the ladies auxiliary of the West Indian Social
Okay.
Club, because the club was a male organization.
Right.
And so the wives of the men could become an auxiliary, which she was an auxiliary
Mm.
member of the West Indian Social Club. The club itself had a full male body.
Right.
And so we were married. And of course, I joined the West Indian Social Club even before I married her. Because once I left college, I used to go frequent the club. And the men would say, "Young boy, you have to come and join the club, you know. You have to come and join this club, man. We
Okay.
want young-"
Now this is Cedric telling you.
Yeah,
this.
well, Mr. Newman, when I was teaching, his daughter was in my class. Her name is Marilyn Newman. And she, having heard my accent was much thicker then,
Mhm.
said, "My father is Jamaican." And so eventually came one day and said, "My father wants you to come over to dinner to meet this Jamaican teacher." I went to his house. He lived on Oakland Terrace. And after I went to his house, he was a proud Caribbean man, a proud West Indian Social Club member. And he was at that time, and I guess he has always been the membership chairman to bring in people. So I went to his house for dinner. Lo and behold, one of his sons walked to the door, who was a student, a younger student at the University of Hartford, uh, uh, Newman, his son.
Is Cedric Newman Jr.? Wasn't he a junior?
No, not Cedric.
Oh, okay. So he had more.
Momentarily slipped me.
Oh, okay.
But anyhow,
Mhm.
I saw him and I said, "Wow, that's your father?" He said, "Yes." And so we got connected again. And Mr. Newman right away brought me an application to become a member. So I actually, from 69, the application, and I'm busy skirting around the university. And in 1970, I became a member of officially became a member of the social club. Dave Cook was the president at that particular time. And I guess Mr. Newman mentored me in the organization because he brought me
So
in.
what was the first committees that you became a part of in 1970 when you joined?
I joined, when I joined the club, I joined the building committee because there was a lot of transition going on. Dave Cook was the president, and Frank Jacobs was the vice president. Frank Jacobs now became the president in 1972. He took over from Dave Cook because Dave Cook was 70, 71. 72, Frank became the president. And at that time, through the city's ordinance or urban development, they wanted 353 Barber Street to continue because they were going to build apartments. And so the search went out under Dave Cook to find a new headquarters. And Frank Jacobs discovered this property at 3340.
But at that time, you were in the organization for how long before that happened?
1970 I joined. It was 71 they start searching. Same year they start searching for property.
Okay.
So once
Go ahead.
Frank was now the vice president, he found the property.
Okay.
And the club purchased the property. In fact, the club purchased the property through Connecticut Savings and Loan, headed by Edward Barlow.
Oh, I remember.
That's the black bank.
Right.
And so the plans start towards, but I got involved with celebration. Now I remember coming back.
Okay.
So I spearheaded a movement to solicit things for celebration and participate in a cultural show. That celebration was a whole week activity with rich activities. And I would do a cultural show. Mr. Cardi and others were involved in the cultural show and the singing and the cultural extravaganzas.
What year was that?
In the 70s.
Okay.
Because the celebration started from what I'm told right in 1962, after Jamaica got its independence. Then and there, they organized a West Indian Independence Committee because they wanted to celebrate the independence of Jamaica. Trinidad joined in because they were on the verge of becoming independent. And so other organizations were involved, like the Caribbean American Society, and others were there, and they joined in. And so in '62, that's when the celebration started. It was a small parade.
We're going to take a break right now. And then when we come back, I want to talk more about how you progressed. I want to know about how you personally
I'll tell you that.
developed in the organization and how the organization helped you develop into
I will certainly
the
share that.
stalwart that you are today.
Well, I rose because men of that time brought me up, brought me in and brought me up. I didn't do anything by myself. I'll
All right.
repeat that. Those older men, their culture was that of young boy,
Yeah.
and they'd call me, because I was young.
Right.
I have a picture of the club like I'm a little boy,
Yeah.
you know, and they nurtured me,
Yeah.
and they weren't willing to give me opportunities.
So let's talk more about that when we come back, because right now we're going to take a break, and we'll come back with more of the discussion with Leslie Perry, because he's got a lot that I want to dig into, and his history and his growth in the community in the West Indian Social Club. We'll be right back. Greetings to one and all. My name is Mark Milward, and I am the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Caribbean American Diaspora newspaper, otherwise referred to as CADN. We are based in Hartford, Connecticut, providing both online and newspaper distributions serving the tri-state areas of Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey, and also serving Massachusetts in our paper copy distributions. At the Caribbean American Diaspora newspaper, we are dedicated to amplifying the vibrant narratives of the Caribbean American diaspora, showcasing our community as a beacon of innovation and forward-thinking culture. With a daring and provocative brand voice, we inspire our readers through stories that celebrate creativity, resilience, progress, and history. Our mission is to challenge perceptions, ignite conversations, and empower the Caribbean American diaspora to embrace its unique identity and influence on the global stage. Together, we shape a future where our voices resonate and our culture thrives. We embrace our English-speaking and Spanish-speaking Caribbean communities, and we welcome you to submit your inputs by calling us or emailing stories that you want told in our communities, as well as people and organizations that should be recognized for their contributions and services in our community. Please support CADN, your community newspaper. And we're back on the Jamaica Diaspora Show with our special guest today, Mr. Leslie Perry. Now, some of the things that I wanted to get into and talk about with Mr. Perry regarding his development in the West Indian Social Club. Can you talk to us and tell us where were you? Okay, what was I want to try and understand how you grew inside the club. You talked about how you were nurtured. What was some of the roles that you played before you ended up becoming president? How long did it take you to become the president?
That's a good one, because I was ready to be involved. I mean, I see this blood, this excitement. I felt the
What committees were you on?
Okay, so I started off with, remember I said I joined in 1970. At that particular time, they were on a quest to find a new building.
Right.
Frank Jacobs, a realtor, found that place on Main Street. It was a skating rink. And once he found it now, the movement was to purchase it, went to Ed Barlow, Connecticut Savings and Loan, got the loan, And
So
the-
we got that. We got the building, but I want to know about
so
you.
now I personally now got involved
Right.
because they had to renovate this building. It was,
Well, what were you doing at the time? What kind of committees were you? Were you on the you were on the building committee?
I joined the building committee.
Okay.
In fact, I was in charge of doing the lounge at that time.
Okay.
So I worked with the building. Mr. Keith Carr was like the organizer.
He had his hands in everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, he was the organizer.
So
President,
okay.
Dave Cook left the presidency. This is now Frank's thing. This is now Frank Jacobs' baby.
Okay.
But the head of the renovations, etc., was Mr. Carr.
Right.
I got a piece of it.
Okay.
I was a young guy. He saw me as, you know, a guy I could do, and he utilized my
All
skill.
right. So you okay? So you were okay after. Did you have was it a certain position? I mean you were just
Now, once Mr. Cook left and Frank was elected president, he had a vice president. The next year when he ran for president, he won again. I became the second vice president.
okay. That's what I want to know. I want to see your progression.
Okay, so
So
I
you became the second vice
under
president.
Frank Jacobs. That was in
Okay.
1973-ish.
When did you become the president?
Oh gosh, that's a one that I need to expound on. So I was anxious to take leadership,
Mhm.
but they said, "Young boy, take it easy."
How were you in the second vice president?
I got to go back and get my age straight. But what I'm saying to you is this: after I became vice president for Frank, I thought, man, I'm going to move up. They said, take it easy, because other people are in line. So Mr. Alfred Clayton becomes the president. I now become his vice president. After his presidency, I said, well, now I'm ready. They said, young boy, take it easy. You know, we set a steer of how you move up. We don't want you to go there and be frustrated. You got to learn patience is the virtue for us. So I waited. Al Watson became the president. I'm his vice president. And then in 1977, I actually launched out to become president, and I won.
Okay.
And I became president.
All right.
Now I decide now it's time for me to lay out my legacy and do what I know I can do.
All right. So that's where I was. That's where I was aiming for. So, in having that experience of managing that club, we see the organization today. Today we are in May. We're going to be celebrating the 75th anniversary, and we no longer have presidents. We have
A board chairperson.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
Okay,
what are
basically,
your thoughts on
basically what happened, how that came about.
I mean, we know how. Okay, you
but
can talk about how it came about.
Yeah, because of COVID.
How do you think that has changed the organization?
Well,
And has
in
it changed it for the better?
In some cases, at the time when it was done, it was for the better because you need continuity. You didn't have the luxury of having a meeting, an election every year because COVID was so unpredictable. However, during my time as president, having election annually spurred a lot of excitement. We actually, it's like a presidential election in America. We campaigned and we had a very active runoff for president. With the board situation now, it doesn't give that opportunity to the members to come in and forge because it's almost like it's not the same process. When I was in my days, when we have election, you had competition, you had different teams organizing and campaign heavily, just like an election for Hartford mayorship. And we worked hard, and you were dedicated. So, when I first became president, I had visions of my own. One of the visions that I saw was necessary is that it was the male organization had an auxiliary. So that means that the auxiliary is really the wives of members. So a female out there wanting to join the organization, the opportunity was not there. And in the as the 70s and times roll on, we had more Caribbean women coming into the country, and they maybe wanted to become an organization member, and that didn't afford itself. So I said, it's time for the organization to, at the time also, there were movements about the tennis clubs and golf clubs and Boy Scouts integrating. Sensing that, I went to college and I see the need for change. But change doesn't come easy. So I introduced the fact that we need to open the doors to women.
And I want to add that women that have mentored me in the organization, Doreen and Veronica have been tremendous mentors to me. I mean, I think I've been mentored more by the women, you know, than the men, because you were gone, and you know, I think when I came back, as you know, having been, you know, the son of one of the founders, I was always involved in the club, but as a child, you know, I would go to events, but I didn't really become active until I came back in 2013, and I think at that time Marva was the president.
Right.
And so I worked well with Marva, and then I think Doreen became the president after Marva, but all of them, they pretty much, in fact, Doreen at the time, she had a strong connection with Najaso, because
Yes.
that's when I actually came back after I had
I
gotten
can give you a
involved-
link to that too.
after I had gotten involved with Najaso. So now, yeah, okay. At 77, you become the president.
President. So
And when did you get Najaso? Najaso was in 77 too. Is
okay,
when they
so I
formed.
became president in '77.
And that's the year that Najaso was formed.
And what happened at that time, Jamaica was in turmoil. So a group of us, Dermot Brown, myself, Mr. Alfred Chambers, he owned Crossroads Dairy, and a number of others, and there were others in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a national organization. The ambassador, Alfred Rattery, reached out, and Colin Bennett was actively a councilman too. So he reached out to the Jamaican community throughout the state, the country, not the state alone, the country. So summoned them to come to Washington for a conference to aid Jamaica.
Did you go to that?
And most certainly, that was one of the founders of Najaso.
Right. Okay.
Right? And I say that proudly,
Mhm.
because, you know, that's how society is. Some people were not for a Najaso movement. I understand their point of view. So Mr. Brown, myself, Mr. Chambers, and others, we took money. I was the president, took money from our pocket and went to that convention because we felt that we wanted to support Jamaica. And we went. Others, Progressive League, Caribbean Ladies Cultural Club, also went from Hartford, right? And then other people from organizations in different states, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Ohio, all over, Tennessee, all over, came, converged in Washington. And
Okay.
at that convention now, they decided to move towards forming a national organization. And what was unique about that is that it was not just Jamaica. It said National Association of Jamaican and Supportive Organizations, which meant that at that conference, there were people from Trinidad, Guyana, and Barbados there also to support Jamaica during this turmoil. And Najaso was founded. Dermot, myself, Mr. Chambers were founding members.
Right. I see that in the
I also became a vice president later on.
right. Now, that was in 77. Now, at 78, we have the West Indian Foundation. Let's talk about how that got started.
So now,
And
mean,
why did it get started?
my wife was very patient because I'm all over the place. The activism engulfs me. So now I see vision for the club, and I see vision nationally. So now I'm looking at the club. It's a social club. And an older man, Mr. Fitzroy Parkson, he used to get things from, he was an older farm worker, and he worked with Charles tobacco place. And
Cross, yeah, I remember.
yeah, so he said, you know, we should have a thing where we can get funds for the club because the club is not a so Mr. Freeney, young boy, came into the club. I mentored him, and he was fiery like myself. I saw myself in him. So I pushed, and he became my vice president. And I said, Freeney, we need to explore this thing, you know, this foundation thing, 501c3. He went out, and he got this guy, attorney Sidney Shulman, work with him, and bingo. But I'm not interested at that time recognition for that. I'm just doing. So Mr. Freeney took it on. As a matter of fact, Mr. Freeney took money from his pocket to do the foundation. And it was drafted by Sid Shulman, and it was taken by the club. I didn't even care about who founded. I wasn't thinking about that. So he took it back to the club, sent to the Secretary of State, and we started the foundation. But basically, Hugh Freeney, Mr. Parks, and myself, I was the president, and I pushed for that. In the meantime, I was still pushing for women to become the club, but join the club also, which there was a little resistance because, you know, change does not come easy, my friend. There's nothing negative about the organization. These guys came from way back. They had an organization, a male group, and now we're going to, you know, so they could push back.
Has it served the purpose of, you know...
of having women in?
No. You know, in establishing the West Indian Foundation, your vision.
Oh, yes. So now this
served...
was founded for educational, cultural, because now you have an entity that can go out and get funding. So it served the purpose. In fact,
and that's something I don't understand. Why can't the West Indian Social Club can get funding? Can they not?
They doesn't have a 501c3. So we decided to have a separate entity that could go out and get funding and do the cultural things. You know, not only that. The idea was that this foundation would be able to bring in to its fold people represent all the other Caribbean organizations, you know, to get funding to do what they need to do and establish cultural diversity. That's a bad word today, unfortunately. But educationally, for example, I was president and I was also a teacher at the King's School. And so I established Martin Luther King tutorial program. I started at the club, but it was difficult doing. And I worked at, in fact, Veronica Erie Wilson at the time through Aetna got some funding so that we could have a tutorial class for those students needing help after school. And that was started at the Martin Luther King School.
The Taste of the Caribbean.
Okay, that's way down later on, because during that 78, we also started going to Washington to lobby for the Caribbean. So we were doing a lot of different things. We went to New York to help organize, because they were talking about carnival parades. And we went, it was NOAA at the time, a national organization of Trinidad. And we, just like Najasa, we joined in support and was started at the big Labor Day parade in New York. That's how it began. We went as a part of the organizers, okay? And so I won't get too much in that, but backtrack now. Then after we had the foundation started, Mr. Freeney was the first president because I was president. I couldn't be president of the foundation. So Mr. Freeney became the president and he started working diligently. Now, once I left in 78 as president, he now became the president. And so when he became the president, the presidency was handed over to a lady by the name of Viola Higgins. She's from the Bahamas. And she led it. In fact, through her leadership, we brought Shirley Chisholm to speak at a fundraising luncheon. And it moved on. And Mr. Freeney again served. I jotted down some things because I'm just talking. But yeah, so he served, and now he became president. And we were going through some crisis. So he really was I'm bigging him up now because he did serve well, and he would even play music in the disco room so that to save money.
There seemed to have been, I guess, a stronger connection between the West Indian Foundation then
Yes.
as compared to
Yes.
where it is now. What happened? That
Well, basically, you know what? Growth and change happens.
yeah,
Because
true.
what happens is that, you know, the West Indian Club, West Indian Foundation, there are those in the community might feel it's too aligned with the West Indian Club, even though that's we, we organize it to serve, but now it become a broader service agent, not just the West Indian Club, but the West Indian community.
I want to. Okay, so here's what I wanted to. I don't know too much history about it, you know, other than the fact that for a brief period of time, I was writing articles for the West Indian American newspaper. All right. I mean, the West Indian American newspaper was it was it
Dr. Edgar Johnson, I
right.
remember him clearly.
So that
And that served a very good purpose.
that served a very good purpose.
And you're continuing that, and I admire that you're doing that.
We are continuing. In fact, we're going to continue with the same name, and then never got the feedback, you know, to do that and the support to do that. So, you know, we've started, you know, the Caribbean American Diaspora newspaper. So, can you reflect on the importance of having a newspaper in the community?
Oh God, yes. You know what? What I should have done, Mark, before I came here, I have a collection of those newspapers of significant occurrences, because one of the things I worry about is that history becomes his story. Let me repeat that. I'm worried that his story speaks louder than history. So when you documented it, and that's why I willingly come here to talk to you, that when it's documented, for example, there's a newspaper article that shows when we went to the Connecticut State Capitol and demonstrate, there was an article by Edgar and Stan, the writer, about what we did, and that resulted in them hiring state troopers, more black state troopers, not Caribbean, black state troopers, because we are black people, you know? So, so we did a lot of things. In fact, at a recent honorary, I just was recognized at the state with Bobby Gibson and Dr. Ben Foster, called their names because they're calling out names of older people who contributed and may have been forgotten. So when you look at the newspaper that you've created and Dr. Johnson used to create, you could pick up an old copy if you kept it in the archives and say, oh my gosh, this happened and that happened. You know?
It does trace
Very important.
some of the history.
So let me say it loud and clear. Say it loud. What you're doing, having the newspaper to chronologize and list significant issues. The broader community may not think it's significant, but you're listing things that happened in the community. Not saying, like the other day when I went to the state capitol and I got an award, you documented it. So people who have a nudge for history will keep that. And later on, they can have that documentation. That is true. It's a fact, because here it is in the Caribbean American newspaper of Diaspora. CAD? It's CADM, right. So that is important.
Let me, I'm going to take another break, and then I'm going to have to finalize because I want to get some questions in here that I had for you.
But I want to make sure you get the women being in the organization and some significant things that have also happened outside of the community that people may not be aware of. Caribbean History Month, I was a part of that. And others were a part of that. And they kind of just drift away. They shouldn't. People should know about that.
Okay. So we'll be right back. We're going to take another break, and this will be our final break. And then I want to come back and talk to Leslie about some of the things that he's done, you know, establishing the Taste of the Caribbean. And yeah, he's got so many awards, you know, it's too numerous to mention, you know, as an educator, as a servant leader. So we'll be right back.
It's the dawn of a new day, and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is shaping a future filled with opportunities and limitless possibilities. The government is building the foundation for a thriving tomorrow through strategic billion-dollar investments that fuel industries, facilitate an environment for job creation, and empower communities to rise. We are transforming Jamaica with world-class sustainable infrastructure, creating a nation where every Jamaican can achieve more and build a lasting legacy. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, investing today, building a future for tomorrow.
And we're back with Mr. Leslie Perry, and we are talking about a lot of things, and we have only another 10 minutes or so left, so I wanted to get to some things that are significant and important. You mentioned, you know, a National Caribbean American Heritage Month, Taste of the Caribbean. I mean, I can't get away without you talking about both of those
Okay.
festivals or activities.
So what happened is Veronica Air Wilson, she's a stalwart in our community. We have gone to Washington and lobby. We have gone to New York and do things. In fact, 2 consul general recognized work that I've done. Kay Baxter Collins, I think it's 1994, and Hernan Hall in 2013. Because during my presidency, we traveled and we did things. We brought the consul general out of New York to come here in the Colin Bennett building to give passports and to help Caribbean citizens, Jamaican citizens who had difficulty rather than having to go all the way to New York. So those were things that I worked on to make happen. And we also, Veronica, myself, and others would go to Washington, just like I told you, we went to Washington for Najaso, and to start it, we start with Claire from Washington. We went to Washington and fought to get Caribbean Heritage Month. And I think it was in February 2006 when George Bush actually signed the legislation. The legislation is not just signed because the president decided to do it. It's through lobbying. People don't know that. So we lobbied. We went, and the Consul General in New York and all that saw what we in Hartford were doing to make those changes. And we lobbied. And so when it was passed in February 2006, in August of 2006, when we were going to have our parade, we had a launching of Caribbean Heritage Month at the city of Hartford, downtown Hartford, under the leadership of Eddie Perez and then Deputy Mayor Veronica Air Wilson, and people like Ms. Yolanda Balfour and Natasha Samuels and some of the leaders of Celebration. And that place was packed, overflowing crowd. In fact, at that particular time, politics, Joe Lieberman was having difficulty because Ned Lamont challenged him. And he came to that event and to get support, you know? And so Caribbean Heritage Month was launched that same year in Hartford under the leadership of Eddie Perez, Veronica Air Wilson, and people like myself, Natasha Samuels, and Miss Balfour.
Okay. And so let's talk about the taste.
Yes, sir.
And
so 2006, that's the height of my recognition that we are now striving because of Caribbean Heritage Month. So I was I also worked with the Art Council as a board member, and I was a board member on the Riverfront Recapture. And that time with Eddie Perez, they wanted Hartford to shine. So I now said, we need an event downtown Hartford because they were broadening and revitalizing Hartford. And so Mr. Jomar Fuji, who was the head of Riverfront Recapture, said, oh, Mr. Perry, that'd be great. And so same time we're doing Caribbean Heritage Month, I'm saying, Let's do this. We too sing America, according to Langston Hughes. Why not have an event downtown Hartford that epitomizes and show the culture and the diverse and the richness of the Caribbean people? So Riverfront endorsed it. We did it in 2006. 20 years later today, we're still there. There have been challenges, but that was a significant effort. And I don't want these things to die.
That has been a very significant event, but now I understand how it evolved out of the National Caribbean American
Well,
Heritage.
actually, I was with Joe Hensel and the Greater Hartford, many different area I look at, and I said, now let's immerse and do this thing. You know, let's do this thing. It's just like the women. I knew that it was time for a change, and it actually came about in 1983 when I wasn't president. Mr. Dermot Brown was the president. That's when it was achieved. But it's not something that I say I wanted to be under my presidency. It's something that I think was important, and it's done. That's the objective. It's done.
Now, we're celebrating 75 years.
75 years.
Give us your overview on 75 years. Reflect on the years, and I want to say personally, I always honored the presidents, that the organization, because when I came back and saw the organization still going, that's when I created the President's Wall. And that's why I was inspired to do it, by the leadership that I saw. With in your capacity now as a past president, aware of the significance of organizations continuity, what do you think that we need today to move beyond 75 years? Because as of lately, the organization doesn't have the same fire and the same enthusiasm that it had when we had the presidents, as you pointed out. The excitement and.
In all fairness to the younger people, we're in a different time, a different day. True. So you have to adjust. When the founders, your father and all those founded the organization, it was a need for them to come together to socialize, etc. But from that social aspect, it moved on to cultural aspect. It moved to, from my turn, educational aspect, and reaching out for all the nationals from the Caribbean to bring to Washington the need for change and betterment for all people in the Caribbean. And so that still exists. However, for the people, the social aspect, more Caribbean people have come here now. We have to be cognizant of that. And they have other activities that they've immersed in the community. They've integrated in the community. So there's not the need, like your father, the isolation of the loneliness, that does not exist now. So they don't need the crutch of the organization. I understand that. So what we need to do is look at it in a different way and says, now, how can we keep this entity going? Because I've noticed not only West Indian, you look at the Italian clubs and many organizations that are like that, they're dying. So we now need to recognize that and come together and support you and your newspaper and have a cultural center, just like Amistad has done, just like in New York, they have organizations that people go to, and some of the churches, Trinity Church, one of the most prestigious church in New York, they do all those cultural diversity things. So the club now has to recognize the need, and the younger people can come in and help. There's no sense of saying the old people don't want us. That's nonsense. The old people do want us because we don't want them. I, for one, then, as an older man, I'm celebrating my 80th birthday. I want to see the young people come in and make contributions so that their children can also understand from whence we came and our significance. Especially today, when they're trying to get rid of diversity, you best bet we need to lay the foundation and lay the history of our significant contribution to these America. Langston Hughes said, we too sing America. And we have contributed. We don't need to be ashamed. We have contributed immensely to this country. And black people have contributed immensely. Their body killed. So we need to stand up and say, yes, we count, and call their names. Call out their names. You're doing that by me mentioning these people who have served in the past. Call out their names. It's very important.
Well, I think that says it, because you know, your leadership, you know, has been significant in this
Thank you, sir.
community. I mean, I personally, you know, have benefited, you know, from your presence, you know, in my time at the West Indian Social Club, and the community has benefited from your presence, your contributions, your servant leadership as an educator. You know, I just want to say, from where from my perspective, you know, you're high on the list of contributors and significant
Yes.
contributions to the organization's continued existence. And from the same perspective, you know, I say that I hope that the past presidents can get together, because I'm concerned about the club.
Me too.
And I hope the past presidents can get together and become a steering committee in some capacity to get the direction of the organization to be moving in a more growth pattern than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, we have to build a history. And like I said, we're not separated. The past, we're linked to the past. Because those who came on the boats and worked hard in the farms, they made their contribution. And they love to see their children now take on a different role, become lawyers, become doctors, you know? And we need to grow. And so the organization has its place in the history to make sure document those history and share that we too sing America.
Yes. And so thank you very much.
You're
because
welcome.
we got to wrap up now. We're almost out of time, but I appreciate
I'm going
you
to
coming
start
on.
writing down things, because you know what? As I think here, there's some little things that you forget about, but the thing is documentation, and that's why I admire you. You do your homework. You get the documents, not just someone's words. You get the documents. You're there, because I was at the state capitol the other day. You were there documenting history, because now someone will say, Mr. Perry did this, or Ed Barlow did this, or Dr. Alvin Johnson did this, but you're documenting it so that his offsprings can see and recognize his contribution.
And with that, I'll wrap it up. This is the Jamaica Diaspora Show on Hartford Public Access Television. I've just spent a wonderful time with Mr. Leslie Perry, and we're going to be signing off now, and we'll be back next time with more on the Caribbean American diaspora experience. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.
Thank you.
And I look forward to coming again and documenting things I can share with you.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you. All right.